Hello everyone and welcome to my cottage. We're not outside today because alas the rain is coming down, but it's warm and cosy in here. Even though the fire's not crackling, I'll do that later, I'd like to think that I can warm your hearts this day with a story. And it's the first in a series of fart tales that I'm going to be telling this week. And I'm going to dedicate them to some of my young friends. There's Tal, who's actually not that young anymore. He's now a teenager. There's Poppy, and there's Althea. And I know Althea really loves a good fart tale. But most of all, I'd like to dedicate this story today to a special friend of mine called Tilly. Tilly Boo, I like to call her Silly Tilly. Look, Tilly, I'm on the telly. But I also like to dedicate this story to old and young, or at least the young at heart. Because you know what, long ago, medieval times, they didn't distinguish between children and adults in the same way we do today. They all came together to share stories, even fart stories. They loved them in medieval times. And if it's good enough for Chaucer, it's certainly good enough for me. And if you don't believe me, well, you've got time on your hands. Check out some Chaucer. Check out his Miller. He is gross. Now, I say medieval stories. In actual fact, the first tale in this series, it was very popular in Tudor times, at the end of medieval times. That's why I collected it in my book of Tudor tales. First came Tudor tales, then came Tudor folk tales. Exactly the same collection. I've just been rebranded. White clean, shiny. And it's a story that starts like this. Once there was a man who had had 2 wives, but only 1 son. He called him Jack, although no, the boy has probably had many different names over the centuries as this story has passed through time. But we shall call him Jack. And the boy's father loved him dearly. Although no, my friends, Jack's new stepmother, his dad's new wife, she did not like him. She said he was as motley-minded as his father, and often she berated the man, saying that he spoilt the boy. She kept a sharp eye and a sharp tongue upon both of them. And so it was, Jack's father took to sending him to the fields each day early, there to scare crows from the field, there to look after his pigs on the edge of the wood. Now, in truth, Jack didn't mind. He loved being out in nature. He was happy with a little bit of social isolation, long before we got used to it now, even if we're used to it, which we probably are not. Although, in truth, he did think that his new stepmother, she would be far more suited to scaring birds than him. With a face like hers, thought Jack, she could scare the devil back to hell. With a face like hers, he thought, she could scare back time. And often young Jack wished he could turn back time to stop his father marrying the woman in the first place, although alas, he could not. But he wasn't worried that much, for today the sun was at its highest, the sun was at its hottest, and so Jack, he sought the shelter and shade of an ancient twisted tree on the edge of the wood, there to enjoy a simple meal. In truth, it was a mean feast, just a few scraps from the table that his horrible stepmother had packed for him. But Jack didn't mind, and now he gulped it down quickly, whistling between the swallows. But Jack wasn't the only one whistling this day, for now he saw an old beggar, an old man, walking along a track that skirted the edge of the field. And even with his young eyes, Jack could see the old man. He had far less of the road in front of him than he did behind. He could see his long grey beard, brindling grey, so long it dusted the floor as he walked along. With his young eyes, Jack could see the old man's thin frame, his threadbare clothes. Yet still, he had a smile so bright it lit up his face like the high summer sun, and it warmed Jack's heart. And so it was he invited the old man to rest a while in the shade of the tree and to share the simple meal with him. The old beggar did not say no. Quickly he gulped everything down that Jack had left. And now he thanked the boy for his kindness, saying to him, "One good turn deserves 3 others. Choose 3 wishes, Jack. Whatever you want," he says, "it shall be yours. Choose now." Well, Jack was a poor boy, a simple young man. He didn't dream of fine things. But thinking about it, he'd often thought it might be nice to be able to bring a bird home for his father's supper. "Say no more," said the old man. He reached into his cloak with his right hand and pulled out a fine-looking yew bow. He reached in with his left hand and pulled out a quiver of arrows, saying, "This is no ordinary bow, Jack. This is a magic bow, cunningly crafted. For no matter what you aim at with this bow, well, the arrows will always find their mark, always hit their target. Use it wisely, Jack, but not before you've asked another boon of me." Jack was a simple lad. He desired very little. But thinking about it, he'd always thought it might be nice to have a few tunes to keep him company as he sat all day alone on the fields. The old man nodded knowingly. "Say no more, boys," says he. He reached in his cloak with his right hand and pulled out a simple wooden whistle. He reached in with his left hand and pulled out a leather case to carry it in. And he said, "This is no ordinary whistle, Jack. This is a magic whistle that is cunningly crafted. For when you play upon this whistle, whoever hears the tune, they will lose control of their minds, their bodies. They will be forced to dance and spin as they have never danced before. Use it wisely, lad, but not before you've asked one more favour of me." Jack had got the measure of the old man. He told him now of his horrible stepmother, how she kept her sharp eye and her sharp tongue firmly set upon Jack. The old man, he nodded knowingly. "Say no more, Jack," says he. He reached inside his cloak with his right hand, and he pulled out his right hand. Just there like that. He reached in with his left hand and pulled out the left hand, and now he clapped them hard together, saying, "From now on, Jack, whenever your wicked stepmother sets her sharp-edged eye or tongue upon you, she will let a fart so ripe you will think it had fallen from the medlar tree, whose foul rotten fruit are fit only for making jelly." And now the old man laughed loudly. Jack laughed loudly too, as the old man, he was gone. He could move quite quickly for an old fella. And no sooner had he left than Jack picked up that wooden whistle. He put it to his lips and he began to play a merry tune. You didn't know storytellers could do that, did you? Or at least digital storytellers can do it anyway. And you know what? No sooner did Jack begin to play upon that simple wooden pipe than the pigs in his care, they began to twitch. The pigs in his care, they began to jerk. The pigs began to twerk. Now I must ask, has anyone here ever seen a twerking pig? Not many of you. Well, you should come to Norfolk. They do it all the time here. In fact, there's one. It's now twerking its way up my stairs just over there. Look, behind you. Ha! You looked, didn't you? Some of you did anyway. Well, the pigs, they spun, they twirled, they pirouetted, and now Jack, he danced them all the way home and back to the pigsties. And then he went in and he told his father of the old man who had a belly full of nought but a cloak full of wonder and dreams. And his father was well pleased, for he liked a tale well told, as I hope all of you do too. So pleased was the man that he gave the boy a red-hot roasting capon from in front of the fire. But Jack's new stepmum, she was watching, and it irked her sorely. It sorely grieved her to see Jack getting fat upon her hard work and home-cooked food. She stared hard at Jack. And no sooner did she set her sharp eye upon him than she let along a loud and lusty fart. It was a thunderclap of a fart. It was rasping and it was roaring. It was as ripe and as foul as a fruit of the medlar tree that's only fit for making jelly. Well, the more she farted, the more Jack and his father laughed. The more they laughed, the more she stared. The more she stared, the more she farted. The more she farted, the more they laughed. The more they laughed, the more she stared. The more they stared, the more she farted. Until finally, even Jack's father had had enough. He said, "Off you go, woman, and be sure to take your ass with you." And so she left, leaving the shutters flapping in the grievous wind that she had left behind. She went to the house of a friar of her acquaintance, a man of God. He was a large man. He was as big in the middle as he was tall. He was what was called long ago a lubberly lout. He was greedy by nature and design. She told him of her own belligerent belly, of how the boy, Jack, had the devil inside him. "It is up to you," said the woman, "as a man of God, to beat the devil from the boy." The friar did not say no. And the following morning early, he followed Jack to the fields, planning to purify his spirit with a few well-armed blows. Or was it well-aimed blows? Well-aimed blows with a well-arm. That'll do, won't it? But try as he might, he could not catch Jack. As Jack led him a merry dance now, running over field and fen, between tussock and twisted tree, till eventually even Jack tired of the game. He said, "Hold," for that's how they taught long ago. He said, "Hold, Friar, wait, for if you stop chasing me this day, I will shoot pheasant on yonder tree for your supper." And pointing there, far away in the distance, was a pheasant, sitting upon a branch that ranged out over bramble and cruel and twisted thorns. And Jack now, he took out that magical, cunningly crafted bow. He fitted arrow, he leant, he aimed, he shot. And just as the old man had said, the arrow, it whirred, it hummed, it spun, it struck its target, it found its mark, killing the pheasant dead, so it dropped into the brambles beneath. "Be quick," said Jack to the friar, "lest a fox take that which is rightfully yours." The friar needed no further telling, and for a large man now he moved quickly. Running across yonder field, he reached into those cruel and twisted thorns to take up his prize, the dead pheasant. But as he did, Jack took up the wooden pipe once more, and he began to play. And as he did, the friar began to twitch. The friar began to jerk. The friar began to twerk. Now, I must ask, has anyone here ever seen a twerking friar? Not many of you again. Come to Norfolk, we have plenty of them here. In fact, there's one good... Oh, never mind. I'm sure you won't believe me anyway. The friar, he leapt, he spun, he pirouetted, he twirled on the spot, leaping into the brambles, the thistles and thorns. Jack, he danced him through those thistles, those thorns, those cruel nettles and brambles, and out the other side. And now he danced him back to the village, bare-assed and bloodied. And all the young folk in the village, and all those who were young at heart, they laughed to see such a silly sight. Although there were some who didn't, including Jack's dad. He said, Jack, it's one thing to make your stepmother fart, quite another thing to make your friars frolic. Stop now, desist." The man had quite good word usage when he wanted, and now he threatened Jack with his fist if he would not stop, the first time he had ever done so. But Jack did not listen. Instead, he played much louder still, so that everyone who heard, including his father and his stepmother, they all too joined in the merry dance. As his stepmother, once more, she eyed him ferociously, letting a long, loud and lusty fart as she did. He danced all and one and all through the village until they got to the Guildhall, and now he made the mayor, the aldermen, the important folk caper one way and cavort the other, until now the ceilings creaked and the plaster cracked. And Jack would only stop when they promised that he would not be punished, but that his stepmother would, with the aid of a cucking stool and a river running fast, cool and clear. Well, that should be the end of the story. But you know what? I'm an historian of Tudor times as well as a storyteller. I know the ducking stool, it was a horrible punishment for anyone. So I like to think Jack's a nice boy. And instead of using the ducking stool, instead he chose to dance the woman further still, over field and fen, between tussock and twisted tree. All the time she was eyeing Jack fiercely, all the time she was joining in with her bellowing behind. Although whether she managed to keep in time and tune with Jack, I really cannot say. Thank you for listening to my story, the first of many. My next one in a few days' time, another farting story this week, will also involve a man who loses his donkey. So if you want to know how a man losing his donkey has a link to farts, you'll have to tune in to find out. Until then, I hope you all keep safe, and I hope you all look after each other as best you can.